What's happening, people? I'm DJ Graish, and in today's video we are going to make a tune loud using Masterplan and some other plugins and techniques. So if anyone's there, let me know if you can see me, let me know if you can hear me. And let me know if the screen is moving. I want to give a big up to Clive, our latest member of Graish Nation. Shout out Jason Story, another Graish Nation member. And big up Hayden. Shout out DJ Fully Loaded. And I'm really glad that you can see and hear me and that the screen is moving. You know, a couple of weeks ago I had some issues with it, but I think what was happening is that basically my hard drive was too full. And as long as I keep a few gigabytes free, we should be alright. So how's everyone doing? Long time no see. I wasn't here last week, but I've been working on a new video and I got Masterplan and I've been testing it out and I think it's amazing, so I decided that tonight's stream I'm going to show you Masterplan, give you a little demo of how it works and everything. Shout out Future World Machines. I hope you're all good. Hope everyone's been having a great week or a great couple of weeks. And as is customary in these streams these days, I'm going to give you a bit of a weather report. So we are in just like, I don't know if it's a heat wave or it's just going to be relentless from now until September, but it is above 30 in the daytime. And the minimum never gets any lower than about 22 now, so it's just always hot. And I was cooling this room down a little bit before the stream, but because this AC machine is quite loud, I have to turn it off, so for the next couple of hours this room is just going to get hotter and hotter. Big up Future World Machines, he's already got Masterplan, he's one step ahead. So just a little quick behind the scenes of the channel. So obviously I've told you in the past that I'm an English teacher and English teachers have the summer off. So I'm going to be doing YouTube full time for at least the summer and hopefully continuing after that. So I've been trying to get some sponsorship for the channel. And one of the companies that I asked is this Music Hack, who do Masterplan. Now, they unfortunately have not sponsored anything, but they did give me a free copy of Masterplan, so it's a pretty cool plugin. They've also got another one, I think it's called Fuel or something. It's like a saturator that I'm also going to check out. And Clive's been having to go on Amigo Sampler. That's something that I've not made a separate video about, but I was using it a lot in the Valley of the Shadows video. And it was absolutely perfect for that because obviously that tune was made in '93. So you just get that early 90s sound. Big up everyone locked in. Says we've got 11 people right now. So when the tune gets to the end, which is now basically, we're going to start to talk about mastering or doing your own home masters. Alright, so I'm just going to load up a previous track that was made on stream And this one's called the name of the file is called Foundational Style 1. Actually, it's not even this tune I'm supposed to be loading up. Anyway, it's not this one, it's the Dubwise one. Dubwise 2. So this is a track that was made on the stream in 2 separate streams, actually. There was one where I made it, and then I think the other one was called Arranging Dubwise or something like that. So anyway, let me just give you an idea of what this tune sounds like. But maybe first I'll just turn it down a little bit. Something like that. So it's this one. So it's multi-sampled melodica. I hope you can hear it well. So just a kind of a standard reggae influenced drum and bass track, right? So I think what I'm going to do is like the first thing I'm going to talk about is LUFS, and to demonstrate that I'm going to use this VST called Ulean Loudness Meter. And this is a free VST, free plugin that you can get, and it's basically a way to tell how loud your tune is, and it's really, really useful, especially when it comes to if you want your tracks to be as loud as everybody else's when they're included in DJ mixes and stuff like that, you know. And I don't know if any of you have ever had it where you give your track to a DJ and you're really excited to hear how it sounds in their mix, or maybe you are the DJ and you play your track and it just sounds much quieter and much flatter than all the other tracks that you're comparing it against, and it leaves you feeling a little bit deflated. Well, Ulean Loudness Meter, or this LUFS system, is a way to really know how loud your tune is going to be before you start giving it out to DJs. So let me play the track and then you'll see some numbers appear here. And just to let you know, right now there is a limiter on the master, but I haven't actually given it any gain boost or anything. That's literally just catching any rogue peaks, which there aren't really any of, you know. You can see now there's zero gain reduction. Okay, there was a little bit there, so we're just catching some tiny peaks that are maybe 1 dB above. So I'm going to stop that there and let's just talk about some of these numbers. So we've got the top one, it's called short term, and right now it's minus 21 LUFS, right? And then you've got integrated. Right now it's minus 20.8, and then you've got the loudness range, which is the range between the quietest and the loudest part of the track so far. Okay, so it's mainly the top two that are important. So we've got the short term, that's like how loud is it right now, and then integrated is the entire track. So obviously you're going to have a quieter intro and a louder drop. And then that integrated is going to kind of give you the average of your tune, including the quiet bits and the loud bits. So Clive is in the chat saying -6 to -7 is pretty good, is a pretty good mark. And I completely agree with that. I would say -6 is towards the really loud end. -7 is pretty loud. All right, so let's play the drop of my tune. And like I say, I've done zero mastering to it, even though there's a limiter on the master that it's not actually boosting anything. So it's not surprising to see that we're only hitting up to minus 13 short term right now. Now, anyone who's ever tried to do a self-master and just throw limiting onto the master and boost it up, you might have noticed that when you try to hit those numbers, -7, -6, before you even get there, your track starts to distort, and especially the low end, as in the sub bass and the kick, just end up as a farty mess. So there's a few different things you can do to combat that. You know, we've spoken before on the channel about sidechain compression on your bass, ducking the bass every time the kick hits, stuff like that. And you know, people do kind of a little bit of gentle compression before the limiter, or they might try some clipping or whatever. But I've always found it pretty difficult. You might have the odd tune that you've made that is a bit easier. Sometimes it's fluke, sometimes it's just because you've done really well with the mixdown. But anyway, this is where Music Hack Master Plan comes in. And what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'll delete this limiter because we don't need it anymore. I'll leave Ulean loudness meter there, even though Master Plan does have its own loudness meter built in. And Clive's saying it's pretty hard to hit that without distorting, so there's at least one. I'm glad it's not just me. You know, we all go through the same thing, you know. You're trying to hit the target loudness, but you can't really get there because your track is distorting. Now, anyway, so Future World Machines is saying the downside to having really loud mixes is you lose your dynamic range. Totally. So anyway, this Master Plan plugin, you can see that it kind of looks like the front of an old school like hi-fi amp or something. I really like the look of it. And down here particularly, this sort of LCD looking display kind of looks like something from the 90s, like a Sony mini disc deck or something like that. And I'll go through all of the controls, but the first control I want to talk about is up here in the top. You've got one that says Unity. Now this is amazing because what it does is it sort of gain matches what you've done. So if you've boosted the hell out of your track, obviously it's going to sound really loud, and then if you turn off, you know, if we go here and turn off this Master Plan with this power button here, then it'll get much quieter, right? Well, with this Unity turned on, what you can do is turn Master Plan on and off, and it will stay the same volume, and all you're really going to be able to hear is the squashing of the dynamics and any distortion that's been added and all this other stuff. So it's just going to sound the same volume. And that is also really useful for me as a streamer, because I don't want to be boosting this and it's going to be way louder than my voice, you know what I mean? So that's a way for me to keep it, you know, I keep boosting it and making it louder, but it's going to stay the same volume for you guys on the stream. So let me just play the track and let's see what the metering looks like in Master Plan. So I showed you the LUFS meters within Ulean loudness meter, right? We had integrated and we had short term. So you can see here we've got LUFS-I integrated. LUFS-S is the short term. Shout out Danny. So we've got short term -12, -13 LUFS. All right. So I'm just going to keep the music running as a kind of background music as I waffle on about all of these controls. And let me just loop this whole section. So hopefully that music's just kind of like at a background sort of level now. So starting over at the left side, we've got an input gain. I've never touched that before, to be honest. Then we've got these EQs. So we've got low, mid and high. And the mid channel you can sort of decide whether you want to affect the high mids, the mid mids or the low mids. You can only really adjust one. So for example, if you boost the mid mids and then click this high button, it's not like you can affect that separately. So you just need to choose whether you want to affect the low mid or the high mids, okay? Hope I'm explaining that well. Anyway, me personally, I don't think I would really use these EQs. If I want to use an EQ, I'll get a proper parametric EQ and do some more surgical moves and not really use this thing. But underneath that, we've got a thick button. So the thick control is saturation. It's some subtle mastering saturation that you can throw on. And it's supposed to sound like analog saturation and thicken it up and give it more body. Now I'm going to give you more of a demonstration in a bit, like when I've turned the music back up again, but right now I'm going to keep it low so I can keep waffling over it. So you've got a thick control, then the next one is clean. And that is essentially an EQ that's going to turn down at around 200 Hertz. So it's sort of the lower mids area where it might get a bit muddy. You can decide that you want to clean that up a bit. Now the next control is multi-band compression, and what happens when you click that on is here, then you get these three controls for low, mid and high, and as you turn each one up, it's going to compress that band, the lows, the mids and the highs. And I'll give you a better demonstration of that in a bit. We've also got smooth. That is a type of gentle compression which is supposed to glue the mix together. We've got calm. So what calm does is, you can see down at the bottom, by the way, each one, it kind of gives a little description of what it does. So it says here, reduces harshness that builds up during the in-the-box processing. So what it does is it has some EQ cuts in the upper mids, and I want to just shout out a YouTuber called Help Me Davon. He's a kind of a hip-hop producer, YouTuber, kind of big in the game, and he's got a Masterplan video where he shows you exactly what's going on with this Masterplan plugin using like an EQ analyzer. So you can actually see the curves that it's doing. So when you turn up clean, it actually starts to boost down, to cut at 200 Hertz. When you turn on calm, it's got these specific cuts in the upper mids, and you can actually see exactly what it's doing. And then tape, again, it's another kind of EQ curve, and you can choose between tight and 50% warm. So you can go more towards the tight side and the warm side. Shout out Aaron303. Alright, so that's basically all the buttons along the bottom. Then we've got the wide control, which goes from 1 times 1, times 1.5, and times 2. So as you turn it up, then you can add some width to your track. Stereo wideness, basically. And that's almost everything. There is one section here at the end, which is to do with like different styles of monitoring. For example, don't know if you guys have ever heard of the infamous Yamaha NS10 speakers. They were some Yamaha monitors with a white cone that were used a lot in the 80s and 90s. They have zero bass, they have a really tight and controlled mid-range, and they really allow you to hear what's going on in the mids. So if you press that, it basically gets rid of your bass and gives you this very mid-forward sound if that's what you're into. You can also press phone. This is sort of mimicking a smartphone speaker, so you can hear what your tune would sound like on someone's smartphone. And then there's all these other ones, band, mono, dim. So for example, you can press the mono button to hear how your tune sounds in mono, which is particularly useful if you are turning up the wide knob. So if you're giving your tune some stereo width, you might want to check it in mono to see if that's ruining how it sounds in mono. That's basically it. You've got the output, you know, it's by default set to minus 0.1 dB, which is fine. Some people like to take it down further. For example, I've heard services like Spotify and YouTube Music do actually prefer you to upload your track with a full dB of headroom. So you're supposed to master it to minus 0.1. Whether people actually do that or not is another story. And by the way, every control that's on here, the word that's written underneath is an on-off button. For example, if I turn up this wide and then I just click the wide button, that turns it off momentarily so you can check the before and after. Again, same with all of them. For example, if I cranked up the high frequencies, I can just turn off that high frequency boost for a moment and see how it sounds before and how it sounds after. So that's pretty cool. So I was saying at the beginning of the video, by the way guys, Masterplan or their company Music Hack haven't paid me anything to feature Masterplan on my channel. The reason why I'm featuring it is because I had to play around with it and I was pretty impressed, and I think I'm going to be using it myself, so I do actually recommend it, and the link is in the description, and they have a demo version, so if you want to test it out for free you can do. And yeah, I should mention that they did give me a free copy to test out, so big up them. Thank you. Crest. So Future World Machines is saying, can you explain crest? So the crest factor is something to do with the difference between I think it's pretty similar to what you see in the Uline loudness meter. Wait, let me just bring it back up again. In Uline loudness meter, you've got the loudness range in LU, and it's the difference between the loudest part and the quietest part. I think that's what it is. I definitely know that the crest factor is basically how much dynamics is left in the track. So the smaller the number, the less dynamics you've got left, and you need to watch out for that. There's another mastering style tool that I should talk to you about actually. And I don't know if this is me getting sidetracked, but I just want to really quickly show you something. So, where is it? So iZotope have a tonal, where is it? Tonal balance control. Tonal balance control is something that's pretty interesting. I'm just going to put that after Masterplan, show you what it looks like. So this is what tonal balance control looks like, and it's got broad and fine, and I always use it on fine mode. And then you've got different genres that you can choose, and by default it's on bass heavy, which I think is probably the best one for us. And let me just show you what it looks like when you play the track. So this is essentially a demo curve of what your average track would look like in terms of the frequency spectrum, ranging from the bass, and then you've got the low mids, the high mids, and the highs. And you can see that my track, according to this, it's right on the top end of how much sub bass you should have. In fact, I'm almost going out of that range. And then going into the low mids, we're kind of lacking. High mids, pretty much bang on, and highs, pretty much bang on. So, looking at this, you would say that probably my tune has a bit too much sub bass and not enough low mids. Now, obviously, it's just a guide. You're really supposed to use your ears, but sometimes it's good to have a little reference of what it should look like and what it does look like. And here, the thing that reminded me of it is Future World Machines crest factor. So you can see here that there is, on the left side, it's more dynamics. On the right side, you can see that it's just like a squashed waveform. And then you've got this area in between where it's sort of the sweet spot, right? So you can see that mine is already kind of on the right side of the sweet spot, meaning it's not really got that much dynamics in it. And that's before I've really even boosted it using Masterplan, so I'd better watch out. Anyway, let's go into it, and what I'm going to do now is maybe waffle a bit less and have the tunes a bit louder. So you can just kind of watch me work on the tune, and I will tweak some of these controls and see if I can make it sound good. But bear in mind, I've left unity gain on, so that means that even though I'm going to be pushing this up and making it loud as hell, to us, it's still going to sound the same volume, but you will be able to see on the LUFS short-term meter that it's getting loud, okay? So easily I was able to get up to -7. Let's turn on thick. Future World Machines has said try out some of the presets. That is definitely what we should do. But first, let's just like see how my tune sounds with some of these, cranking some of these things. For example, thick. Let's just crank it up a bit. So that's supposed to be saturation. Maybe I'll crank down the low a little bit because tonal balance control was saying I've got way too much sub bass. Be interesting to see what it says if I turn down that low a little bit. So clean is supposed to take out the mud. But if we look on tonal balance control, so clean, what it does is it takes out 200 Hertz. Well, I think looking at this, it's not like we've really got a problem with 200. What we've got a problem with is not enough in this area here. And by the way, using tonal balance control, you can actually solo these bands by going like this. With that S button. So maybe what we need is more low mids with this. Alright, multi-band. Before I was giving you a bit of a demo of it and I've gone way too far, so let me just turn that on and then... You have to be extremely subtle with this. And remember what I always say, turn on and off this effect, like this, with this on and off button to see what you're actually doing. And that unity function is so amazing, like the fact that we can hear what we're doing with the thick and with the multi-band and everything by turning this on and off, but there's no volume jump. And then what you do is once you've finished fiddling around with all the settings, you just turn off unity and then it'll be as loud as it's going to be. So apparently smooth is some gentle compression smooths the overall sound. So let's hit that one. Okay, so if you're not careful, this is the thing about Masterplan, is that you can kind of easily hit -7 and it doesn't distort the low end, but you can start to notice some squashed sound, so you do need to be careful. Let's play with the wide. Any questions so far? So, according to Help Me Devon, the tape is basically, it's not actually tape saturation, but it's kind of like the EQ curve of a tape deck. And if it's more towards tight, then it kind of removes a bit of the low end. If it's more towards warm, it'll boost a bit of the low end. So it's like an EQ tilt. But I'm not really going to use that, because if you want tape saturation, by the way, you're better off just turning on thick. So anyway, that's basically all the controls. I hope the volume of my voice is alright compared to the track right now. And let's have a look what it says under presets. Mastering presets. We've got balanced, bass boost, butter maker, fat saturation, fix the mix, glue, liven, lower highs, MP gold, MP master, tight and warm tape. Let me try warm tape. Is there a way I can press undo though? Alright, you need to be careful if you've just put in all your own settings. Because once you choose a preset, there is an undo button there. Okay, so this is how I had it. Alright, so you're not going to be able to use Command and Z, but there is a little undo button down here, so you just click that. And I think the chat's a little bit delayed. Anyway, with very little effort, I was able to get to -7.5 dB, and to me, it doesn't sound like I'm really distorting it that much. And as I was saying before, it's with other things, like I was using Ozone. When you try to push it that far, it just ends up always sounding bad in the low end. The kick starts distorting, and so this Masterplan has been a game changer for me, and that's why I decided to make today's live stream about it. I'm going to give you a little taste of how it would sound if I turn off Unity, but you might need to turn down your speakers or headphones because it might be a bit louder. So this is what the real loudness of this track is now. And just out of interest, let's see if Ulean loudness meter matches the LUFS of this. Right, I'm going to keep Unity on so I don't blow anyone's speakers. And let's see what happens if I push it further. Because you can see that integrated is actually -12, and when people say that you should try to hit like -8, -7, -6, they're talking about integrated. So we need to go a bit further. What happens if you really just push it? Oh, thank you, Future World Machines. I suppose that's more of a compliment for the plugin maker, but it's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy how this exists. That's insane. It's really cool. So that's something to be honest with you, I've said to you guys before on previous streams that I'm working on. Well, I've got enough tunes for a Liquid drum and bass album, I think, and they all need finishing off. And usually when I say my tunes need finishing off, sometimes what I'm talking about is I need to be able to boost them as loud as professional masters, you know. And I've kind of struggled, so I've shelved them. So what I can do now, I've got master plan, is just go back through the back catalogue and boost them again, see if I can get them up to -7 or something, and then put together my album. Anyway, let's have a listen to some of these other tunes that we've been working on over the past few streams. There's a lot on here. Atmospheric Liquid was one of them. There was Echoes of Light. Let's have a listen to Atmospheric Liquid Tutorial. Emperor Kamikaze. Is louder better? You know, there is such a thing as the loudness war. And what it is that basically since limiting came out in the 90s, people have been pushing it further and further. And we basically got to a point where you couldn't really get any louder, but now they're still inventing tools to make it louder. Now, services like Spotify, YouTube Music, etc., they do normalize your tracks so that everything's -14 LUFS, which means if you submit a ridiculously loud tune, all they're going to do is turn it down. So, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, but at the same time, you know, drum and bass and genres like that have a certain sound to them, which is not that much dynamics, you know. It's just like our ears are used to hearing drum and bass that's had the dynamics squashed out of it, and if you submitted a track that's hitting -14 LUFS to Spotify, then it just wouldn't even sound like drum and bass. It would sound weird. So in a way, we do have to carry on doing this. And also, there is the argument of DJ mixes, and when a DJ is playing a load of tunes that have all been mastered to -7 LUFS, and then you give them yours that's like a couple of dB quieter. Well, he's either not going to play it, or if he does, it'll sound pathetic compared to everyone else's. So you just have to, if you can't beat them, you have to join them, you know. Let me know your thoughts about that in the chat. But I do know for a fact that professional mastering engineers don't master things to -14. No matter what Spotify or YouTube Music or Apple Music tell you to do, they're not going to master that quietly ever. Unless it's some sort of whisper quiet acoustic music that's supposed to be really gentle and stuff, you know. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, this one's called Atmospheric Liquid Tutorial 2. And I honestly can't remember when it was made. But out of curiosity, I just want to throw Masterplan on this and then see what it sounds like when it's being pushed that far. Alright, so I've hit the Unity button, so I'll be turning it up, but you won't actually hear it get any louder. But we can just keep our eye on this LUFS meter and see if it sounds distorted or if it sounds okay when we get it up to -6 or -7. And the thing that I've not mentioned yet, which I should have mentioned before, is that the loud knob on Masterplan is, you can see here it says, increase the loudness with a special limiter/clipper circuit. So it's not actually just a limiter, it's a clipper as well. And to be honest with you, when I've tried to use clippers in the past, they've always made my tracks sound bad. And I don't know how to describe it, but it didn't work. It didn't sound good. They sounded bad, so I took it off again. But in this case, because it's a special clipper and limiter in one, and it's kind of, they've got some secret sauce going on under the hood, then, you know, it's working well. Anyway, let's have a listen to how this tune sounds at this volume, and you guys can tell me if you think it sounds alright. Okay, it was distorting a bit there. I'm going to pull it back. Took it too far. Yeah. Took it way too far. Alright, so it's good, but it does have its limitations. You can't expect miracles. And then you turn it off. To be honest with you, it's not even Masterplan that's making it distort, it's just this style of bass. Yeah, just because it's such a dirty Reese bass. Emperor Kamikaze's asking me about my bitrate. I don't know. Should we have a look? This might be embarrassing. I've got a big buffer. 512 samples. The in-out sample rate for 44,100. You know, that's to do with my sound card, I think. I've not got a good audio interface right now. I did have the Focusrite that was able to go up to 96 kilohertz, but I don't have it right now. I'm going to get another one, the newest Scarlett, I think. That's another debate. Kamikaze, you are bringing up some hot topics, you know. So certain people think that, you know, when it comes to sound quality and stuff, some people are really able to tell the difference between different sample rates and bit rates and bit depths and all that stuff, you know. For me, as long as audio is like WAV quality, it sounds good. Maybe I need to train my ears better. And I even play like, I don't really DJ much anymore, but I used to play like 320 kbs MP3s and they sound good. Obviously not lower, not like YouTube rips or anything, but as long as you do your MP3 at the highest bitrate, then sounds alright. Some people will shoot me for saying that. Needless to say though, when you're making tunes, out of samples, you don't want to be using MP3 samples. You want the highest quality source material possible. But when it gets eventually exported and streamed online or played in the rave or whatever, then in my personal opinion, then a 320 kbs MP3 is fine. But as hard drive space gets bigger and internet bandwidth gets faster and stuff, then really we should all be aiming towards just using WAV at all times in the future. Wonder what Airwaves tutorial is. You know, I heard, this was a while ago, but I heard that there was blindfolded tests conducted, and people in those tests couldn't tell the difference between a high quality MP3 and a WAV. But that's only for 320. You can tell the difference, but if it's a 128 kbs low bitrate MP3, because it's all in the high end, like the hi-hats and the ride cymbals and stuff start sounding really crunchy. Alright, this is one I think I made on stream, which is why it's called Airwaves. Is this the one? Is this the Ninja Man one? I was showing my brother the other day. Real bad man.
bad man.
I'm glad you guys agree about the 320 MP3s, because I've played many raves through many sound systems and no one's ever complained at my MP3 collection.
Stand up as a real bad man. Terrorist and bad man are two different things.
Alright, so my apologies if this one's been way louder because I didn't notice that it had a limiter on already boosting it by 11 dB. What we're going to do is we're going to delete that limiter and we're going to reach for master plan. And I want to see how far, I'm just curious to know how far these can be pushed and, you know, without really getting those distortion artifacts that you usually get from some heavy limiting. So this one, before, I gave it 11 dB, which is why I've just cranked it all the way up there. Clive's asking about renoise. So, you know, the other week I was making a track, you know, my 2-hour challenge. It was the sample pack Echoes of Light that was released by a guy called Groovin in G and Human Synthetics. Well, Groovin in G, he uses Logic, but he also uses renoise, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know anything about it, but if you do want to know some, then have a look at Groovin in G on YouTube.
Stand up as a real bad man.
And Future World Machines is telling me to loop the loudest part of the track. I'm guessing you mean in terms of like when you're trying to boost it up and see whether it's distorting. That's not a bad shout. So I'm gonna do, so it's not as boring, I'll loop 16 bars.
Terrorists and bad man are two different things.
So what we've got here is, it's still not really hitting the desired LUFS, so I'm going to give it some more. And what I've done is I've pressed the Unity button so it's quieter and you can still hear me waffling on the mic. But if I let go of that,
terrorists and bad man are two different things.
You do start to notice some artifacts in his voice when it's being boosted that much. That's just to do with a poor mix down. So obviously, needless to say, what you need to do is do your mix down to the best of your abilities before starting to try and boost it. Make everything fit in well together. Make it so it's not muddy. And I don't know if you guys use reference tracks, but the best thing to do with that is essentially you get the track and put it in here. So get someone's tune that you think has a great mix down and put it in your project as another track down here. And then what you do is you using your ears, you match the volume. So obviously your reference track, it's been professionally mixed and mastered, so it's going to sound really loud compared to yours. So what you do is you turn theirs down, and then using your ears you try to get them so they sound the same volume. But then once they're at this sort of matched volume or perceived loudness, then you can start to listen to the different parts of the tune. So you can say to yourself, is my sub bass louder, quieter, or about the same as theirs? And then do the same for the kick. You do the same for the snare, you do the same for the shuffles, hi-hats, all the instruments and stuff. And you get an idea of how well yours is balanced compared to theirs. Then you do your mix and your master and you export it, and then you can do the whole DJing thing where you go into a DJ software and you can just like beat match them together and then crossfade from their tune to your tune. And just keep doing that, and then you'll easily hear where your track is lacking. You might notice that yours has actually got way more sub bass, and the thing is with sub bass is it takes a lot of the headroom, so if you've got slightly too much sub bass in your track, then it will make it so that you can't turn it up as loud. So if you ever have problems with trying to get your track louder, then one of the go-to things is just try turning your sub bass down a bit, and then you might find you're able to push it into the limiter way harder. Anyway, it's a weird stream, this one, because I don't have a specific track that I'm really working on. I just said that I would kind of talk to you a bit about mastering or self-mastering. And one thing that it's worth mentioning is that if you do have the money, it's definitely worth sending your tune to like a full-blown professional mastering engineer. Preferably one that's open to communication, as in
stand up as a real bad man.
I would love to work with a pro mastering engineer who's actually keen to give me some feedback on my mix and say, I could make this a lot louder if you just turn this down a little bit, turn that up a little bit, and do this and that. And then I'll just make those changes and send it again. I've always wanted a mastering engineer like that, but I've never found one.
Terrorists and bad man are two different things.
E.E. Wilson, this is self-mastery. Wow, I forgot about this bit. This. Completely forgot about this melody.
Bad man.
Back in the day, because I've got turntables, right, and I've got a vinyl collection and I love to spin vinyl, but obviously in those days I couldn't spin my own tunes. So what I did is I got in touch with this company called Dub Studio in Bristol. And Dub Studio make these dub plates, but they don't do them out of the traditional acetate. They make them out of PVC. So it's like a hard plastic. Now, a traditional acetate dub plate, you can only really play it 100 to 200 times before it wears out because it's made out of soft plastic. So these PVC ones last as long as a real vinyl. So I got the first one done via mail order, and it was sent to Barcelona, and I absolutely loved it, and I was so happy to have my tune on vinyl, you know. Now, in 2011, I went to Bristol, and I went there to go to St. Paul's Carnival, which is like a Caribbean carnival in Bristol. Whilst I was there, I wanted to use the opportunity to go to Dub Studio and see how they make these dub plates. So I booked it in, you know, I sent him the tunes, paid for it and everything, but I said, don't do it yet. wait till I'm there. And it's called attending the session. So it's something that people used to do back in the day, in the dub plate days. You can attend the session and be there. And it's just, he was saying that hardly anyone ever does, you know. So it was fascinating. So the guy's got kind of a shed, or, you know, like a little structure in his garden, which is a studio where he's got this lathe where he cuts the discs. And then he's got a mastering studio with this really, you know, I'm sure it must be expensive gear. And he's just there, like, turning the dials and stuff. Cuts it to the record. And I got a video of it. But unfortunately, because it was 2011, videos weren't really HD back then. And my footage of it is really terrible quality. But it is online. It's on Vimeo. So you can... wonder if it's worth me trying to pull it up now. Vimeo's changed. I think you have to pay for it these days. Forget about it. Well, anyway, I'll bring it up. I'll show you on another stream. You can see some footage, some pretty bad footage of my dubs getting cut in Bristol in 2011. Yeah, so...
Real bad man.
Needless to say, Dub Studio has all the analog gear. They send it through all the compressors, all the tape, I don't know, some kind of saturation and some kind of analog distortion and different circuits and gadgets, and then it gets cut to the disc.
Stand up as a real bad man.
Anyway, if any of you guys ever want to get you've made a tune that you're really proud of and you want it on vinyl, I would definitely recommend checking out dubstudio.co.uk. He's a really sound guy and he can cut it for you.
Terrorists and bad man are two
He's called
different
Henry.
things.
And he's in a group called The Heat Wave, I think it is. It's like a reggae sound system. I hope the stream's still working properly.
Bad man.
Hey, Emperor Kamikaze, when you say your mastering engineer uses analog compressors, etc., and you say he's got MP also, if you insist, do you mean he has a copy of this plugin? Anyway, I've got a video coming out in the next few days, and I'm going to give you a sneak preview of the tune that I made in the video. Sounds like this. Master plan already there. This is the new one. How to make 140 jungle. the screen looks like an MP3 player or some sort of hi-fi equipment from the 90s. So I want to show you how I did that little rewind thing. So this is a little trick that I want to show you. We go into instruments. You've got the rave piano. That's that little sort of arpeggio thing. And then here, you've got the reverse piano. So we've got a different piano that I reversed. I froze it, froze the sample to audio, reversed it. And then this one particular slice here, if we go into envelopes and then go to clip and transposition, look, I've made the line transpose downwards. So just during this tiny slice, it goes from 0 to like minus 18 semitones. And that gives it that sort of, as if you've pressed stop on a turntable and it stops, it goes, so it sounds like this. And then I've just put a simple delay where it's only, the feedback is turned down, which means it just delays one time. So it goes do, and just repeats it once, And that ends up sounding like this. So I just wanted to show you that because I thought it sounds pretty authentic, like a turntable stopping, but it was just done in Ableton. So I want to big up some people in the chat. Big up Future World Machines. Big up Clive, E.E. Wilson. We've got Emperor Kamikaze. And all of the crew. Thank you so much for sticking around. Let me know if you've got any questions for me. And also, please make sure you click the like button on this stream so it gets sent out to more people. And also let me know what you've been using for mastering. So I'll answer the question myself. For the longest time, I've been an Ozone user. I started off, I think, on Ozone 5. And I was always pretty happy with it. Ozone has this AI mastering feature, and I'm sure the newest one must be even better, but I think the version I've got might be version 9. And the AI thing, what it does is, first of all, it EQs your track. In fact, I might as well show you, since this is kind of the mastering episode, I'm going to show you the old version of iZotope Ozone's AI mastering feature. Now, bear in mind that they're probably on version 12 or 13 by now, but I've got version 9 just to show you. All right, so once it loads up, turn off master plan. So this is what Ozone looks like, and you can add all these different modules. For example, you've got equalizer, maximizer, and then there's all these different ones that you can add, right? Imager, exciter, low end focus, master rebalancer, all these different things. But the thing I want to show you is the mastering assistant. Click mastering assistant, and then it says, what are you going for, modern or vintage? I'm going to choose modern. Then you can put in a reference track if you want, or you can do it manually. Then you've got the intensity, low, medium, or high. Next it says play, oh yeah, destination, streaming, or CD. Now remember, before I was telling you that services like Spotify expect you to upload your track at -14 LUFS, which is way too quiet and no one's actually going to do it, by the way. But if you choose the streaming option, then I'm sure it'll do that. So I'm going to choose CD for that reason, and then I'm going to choose high intensity. Now it says play your track at the loudest part, so I'm going to choose here. I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to click next. Now bear in mind, this, when I click play now, it's probably going to be quite quiet, and then once it does its thing, it's suddenly going to get a lot louder. So you need to have your finger on the volume button just in case. Right, I've clicked next. It's analysing it. Setting equalizer, analysing the dynamic range. Okay, it's bypassed the dynamic range. We've got the maximizer, it's going to get loud now. Analysing the maximizer frequency dependent gain reductions. And I'll show you what that means now. Right, now we can take a look at what it actually did. So the first thing it did was EQ. This is the curve it's chosen. So actually it decided that it wanted to do a very, very small, gentle boost of only 0.3 dB in the low end. Now, as I was showing you before with the tonal balance control 2, I don't know if it's just me and my production style, but there always seems to be some kind of like a dip at like 600 hertz and so, and it just like decides that it wants to boost that up, so that's fair enough. So we've got like this really wide bell curve just boosting all the mids centered around 850, and it's boosted it by 1.5 dB. And then it's decided that my high frequencies are way too much, so it's decided to dip it by 2 dB at 1400 hertz or 14 kilohertz, right? So that's the EQ section. That's what it's done. What you can do, what I've done in the past, is use this mastering assistant to just give you some tips. So you don't actually have to use this as your finished master, but it's almost like having a person who says, I think you've got slightly too much high end, or I think you're lacking in the mids. And then you can go back to your track and you can be like, well, what are the instruments that I could turn up a little bit to try and give it more going on in the 600 to 800 region? Or maybe I should turn down the hi-hats or something a bit because there's way too much high end, you know? And it's just a second opinion. You know, it's a robot's second opinion, so you have to take it with a huge pinch of salt, but at least it can give you a little bit of insight into what's going on. Dynamics, it decided to bypass this section because it said there was no extreme dynamic range detected. Next, it's chosen some frequencies to duck before it gets to the limiter because there was some resonances, and you can actually solo these. So this is another little insight. So watch this. So for example here you've got 1 and 3, and if I choose 3 and then just press this solo button, you can hear what it sounds like. So it decided that that particular frequency, 331, had too much of a build up in resonances, so it's decided to cut it a little bit, you know. Just another little bit of insight. And let's go for number 4. This is one at 6,419 hertz. So that's obviously like the shuffles of the break. It's decided there was too much going on there, and it's just like cheekily cut a bit of it. And then we've got 6, which is again that super high end 13,000, and it sounds like this. So again, it's decided that there was too much resonant frequencies going on there, and it's decided to apply a little cut there as well. So as I was saying, I only ever really use this robot as a reference, but it is sometimes fun to see what it thinks of your track. And then the last thing is the maximizer, which is a limiter basically. You've got all these different algorithms, IRC 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the most modern one I've got on version 9. And then of IRC 4, you've got different modes, classic, modern, and transient. And then you've got the target threshold. So you can see, as I was saying before, it decides that minus 14 LUFS would be appropriate. And that's obviously because of that whole thing with Spotify normalizing the tracks. You can, if you're making drum and bass, you can decide to put that up to minus 7 or 6 or whatever you want. Then you've got the threshold and the ceiling. So ceiling means it won't ever go above this, and that's minus 0.3 dB. And then the threshold is what you pull down to try and make your track louder. And this is where, you know, I was saying before that I'm here desperately trying to make my track louder, but it's just getting distorted. This is where I was trying to eke the tiniest little extra bit of loudness out of it and not really getting very far. You know? And then there's all these other things you can mess around with. Character, fast or slow. The transients. Stereo independence. You've got the sustain. You can crank that. Transient emphasis. So you can mess around with all these. And it's a good tool. No diss to Ozone. However, I think for the time being, I'm going to stick with Masterplan. It's a lot more simple interface, but I have found in the last couple of days that I'm just able to make my tracks slightly louder with slightly less distortion than in Ozone. So, with all that being said, does anyone have any questions about Ozone or Masterplan? Have any of you guys ever messed around with the mastering assistant, which is basically like AI mastering? When I say messed around with it, I just mean, have you ever let the mastering assistant master one of your tunes? And if so, did you think it did a good job? I think that basically the mastering assistant, the way it works is essentially it takes the tonal balance control. So let's say for this tune, for example, it takes the difference between this curve. Let me show you what I mean. So as you can see here, we've got this huge dip. It's coming right out the bottom in the low mids. So what it does, it takes that and it's like, right, well, we need to apply some boost there then. And again, look, in the highs you can see it's boosting right out of the top of the thing, so we need to get rid of some of that top end. So all it does is it takes that and robotically applies the EQ. So what you can do is to cut out the AI aspect of it, then you can just do the EQing yourself using tonal balance control. So that is a tool that I will continue to use from Ozone. So anyway, if any of you guys are curious how I made this tune, stay tuned on my channel. There will be the video uploaded some point during the week. Probably midweek or at the latest next weekend. I've also got a bit of a list of old school drum and bass tracks that I want to reproduce, and let me know in the chat if there's any old school drum and bass tracks that you'd like to add to the list. Obviously, it's best to give me ones that are mainly made out of samples. And I'll do some digging and see if I can find out where all the samples come from. They're the best types of videos to make, to be honest. I really enjoy doing all the research and just making the tune and trying to make it sound as close to the original as possible. Yeah, so it's all 90s, by the way, so I probably won't be remaking anything from the 2000s or onwards. I'm just all about the 90s, early 90s, mid 90s, maybe late 90s. Yeah, and Future World Machines is saying that if a track has more mid-range, it sounds louder, and that's totally normal. Why? Because our ears are tuned. Have you ever heard of the Fletcher-Munson curves? It's equal loudness curves based on what we can hear. And the whole reason is because our ears are tuned to hear other people, right? To hear people's voices, which is in the mid-range. And apparently a baby crying is at that one frequency that your hearing is at the most sensitive. So that if one of our kids really needs our help, we'll be able to hear it. Pretty interesting, right? But obviously when it comes to producing music, you need to watch out with that frequency. I think it's like 3K or something. You need to really use that sparingly because our ears are really sensitive to it. And when you see in Masterplan, it's got the calm feature, and then I was saying before that this guy Help Me Devon has a video where he actually shows you the EQ curves that this applies, and I'm pretty sure that the calm feature will cut the exact same frequency as a baby crying, and it'll calm down the track a bit. Check out his video if you're really interested to see what's going on under the hood of plugins. And then the opposite is what they call a smiley face EQ. So when you want to make a track sound good, you sort of boost the bass, give it more power, boost the top end, makes it sound really nice with the sort of extra treble boost. And that's a smiley face, or they call it the disco smile, because I think it was in the disco days that they first started doing that kind of EQ into their tracks. So it's a Disco Smile. And you can see from what on the tonal balance control, I think I've naturally given my track a Disco Smile without even doing any EQing. It's because I have like this sort of deficiency in the mids, and I have loads of sub bass and loads of high end, you know. So it's like my ears naturally made me give the track a Disco Smile. Bit too much, I think. Especially in this bit where there's like no instruments and then it comes back in. Anyway, people, that is Masterplan. Check it out at the link in the description if you want to check it out. There is a demo version. You can see if you like it, free of charge. And I will be using it myself. And maybe in one of these future streams I'll put together my album, and I'll show you all the tracks that are sort of candidates for the album, and you can tell me whether you think it should be on there or not. Essentially, it's a liquid album. Obviously, I've got a lot of different tracks in different genres, like 140 jungle. I've got dubstep tunes. I've got like breakbeat hardcore tunes. Got all sorts of tunes, and obviously like full speed jungle, ragga jungle, etc., etc. But I was thinking maybe I'm just gonna put all of my liquid tunes out as one album, and then all these other tunes can be singles or something like that, you know. Because the thing is that for the last few years, I've been building up a bit of a collection of work in progress liquid tunes that all need finishing, and I thought it would be good to just finish them all together and put them all into one project together and release it. And maybe I'll get Henry from Dub Studio to cut it on vinyl for me. Anyway, I'm going to go because I'm starving and I really need to eat something. So thank you so much for joining me. And stay tuned for the video during the week of this track. And I'll see you same time, same place next week.